Part 2 of The Teeth of Blackwater Bayou. The Night of the Teeth. By midnight, the house had begun to sweat. Moisture gathered along the walls in glistening beads, sliding down the wallpaper in slow, uneven trails. It collected in the corners, darkening the wood, soaking into the floorboards until every step made a soft, sick sound. Elise woke to the smell first, copper, rot, and hot animal breath. Her eyes opened in the dark. She did not move. For several seconds, she only listened. The house was silent, too silent. There was no creak of settling wood, no night insects beyond the windows, and no distant frogs calling from the marsh. Then came the sound from the far end of the hall, a wet crack. Elise sat up. Beside her, Thomas whimpered in his sleep from the small cot she had moved into her room weeks before. He had begged her not to make him sleep alone anymore, and she had not asked why. She already knew. Another crack came, then a low, strained groan. It was not pain exactly, but change. Elise slid out of bed and crossed the room, each board beneath her feet threatening to betray her. She reached the door and placed her hand against it. The wood was warm. On the other side, something dragged across the floor. A hand. Now, claw. She heard nails split and lengthen, heard bones scrape inside flesh, and heard a throat trying to hold a human scream and failing. Then her husband screamed. It was the first honest sound she had ever heard from him. Thomas woke. "Mama?" Elise turned and pressed one finger to her lips. His little face was pale in the darkness, his eyes wide and fixed on the door. The handle began to turn, slowly, not because whatever stood outside was patient, but because its fingers no longer knew how. The knob rattled once, then stopped. A breath pressed against the other side of the door, deep, shaking, and hungry. "Elise!" Her name came through the wooden pieces. It was not spoken, but pushed. The voice was buried beneath something thick and growling, dragging through teeth that had not been there an hour before. "Elise, open!" Thomas began to cry without sound, tears sliding over his cheeks. Elise backed away. The thing outside sniffed. The door shuttered once, twice, and then it exploded inward. Splinters flew across the room. One sliced Elise's cheek open, while another lodged in the wall above Thomas's cot. The creature filled the doorway. For one impossible second, Elise's mind tried to make him into her husband. It found pieces, the torn remains of his nightshirt, the gold ring still buried in a swelling finger, and one blue eye that was wild, wet, and aware. But the rest of him had been ruined. His spine had lifted, forcing his shoulders high and forward. His skin was splitting across his back, opening in long red seams as coarse black fur pushed through in bloody clumps. His jaw hung too low, stretched as if invisible hands had pulled it apart and not cared whether it fit afterwards. His teeth were still moving. Elise watched one human tooth loosen, twist sideways, and fall onto the floor with a tiny click. Another grew in behind it, longer and sharper. He looked at her, and for a moment, something human begged behind his eyes. Then, Thomas made the smallest sound. The creature's head snapped towards him, and the human look vanished. Elise moved before thought. She grabbed the oil lamp from the table and hurled it. Glass shattered against his chest, and fire climbed him. He roared. The sound punched through the room so violently the window cracked. Elise seized Thomas and ran. Behind them, the creature slammed into the wall, burning and twisting, clawing at itself. The smell of scorched fur filled the house. He crashed through the bedroom doorframe after them, too large now for the halls that had once obeyed him. Elise ran barefoot over broken wood. Thomas clung to her nightdress, stumbling, sobbing, trying to keep up. "Don't look back," she whispered. But children always look. Thomas looked and saw his father crawling along the ceiling, not climbing, but crawling. His claws punched into plaster. His limbs bent backwards and forwards in ways no living thing should survive. His mouth opened and opened and opened, wider than a man's grief, wider than a beast's hunger. The hall behind them filled with the sound of tearing. The house was changing with him. Portraits fell from the walls. Doors slammed open by themselves. The wallpaper peeled in long strips like dead skin. Somewhere below, beneath the floorboards, something heavy began to knock from under the house. Once, twice, again. It was as if the land wanted in. Elise reached the stairs just as the creature dropped behind them, the impact breaking the floor. Thomas screamed. Elise pulled him forward, down the steps, through the front hall where moonlight spilled through the windows in pale, useless squares. At the front door, she stopped. A shadow stood outside. It was the woman from the swamp, calm and waiting. Elise stared at her through the glass. "Help us," Elise mouthed. The woman's eyes moved from Elise to the boy, then to the thing behind them. Her expression softened, not with mercy, but with sorrow. The creature growled. Elise turned. It stood at the foot of the stairs, shaking violently as the last pieces of its body surrendered. Its hands had become vast, clawed things. Its ribs pushed against its skin like something trapped in a cage. Blood dripped from its mouth onto the polished floor. "Elise," it said again. This time the word sounded almost tender. Then it lunged. Elise threw the front door open and ran into the night. The swamp swallowed the moon. She carried Thomas as far as she could, then dragged him when her strength failed. Branches tore her arms, mud sucked at her feet, and the air filled with the stink of black water and wet leaves. Behind them, the creature burst from the house. Its howl rose over the plantation, and everything alive went quiet. Elise clamped a hand over Thomas's mouth. They crouched among the cypress, knees half submerged in warm swamp water. The creature moved past them, slowly now, sniffing and listening. Its burned skin hissed in the damp air. Its claws clicked against roots. Its breath came in hungry bursts. Thomas trembled against her. Elise held him so tightly he could barely breathe. The creature stopped. Its head turned. It had heard his heartbeat. Elise knew it. She pressed her lips to Thomas's ear. "When I say run," she breathed, "you run towards the lights." "There aren't any lights," he whispered. "There will be." The creature stepped closer, its blue eyes binding them in the dark. Elise stood. "Run!" Thomas didn't move. "Run!" He ran, his small feet splashing through black water. The creature screamed and lunged after him. Elise threw herself onto its back, her hands bearing into wet fur. Her nails tore at its eyes, its ears, anything she could reach. It reared up, bellowing, and slammed her against the tree. Something in her body broke. Still, she held on. "Thomas!" she screamed. The boy vanished between the trees. For a moment, there was only the sound of him running. Then came a splash, a sharp cry, silent. Elise heard it, and so did the creature. It froze, and the swamp rippled. Somewhere in the darkness, something large slid beneath the water. Elise whispered her son's name, but no answer came. The creature turned its ruined face toward the sound. For the first time that night, it looked afraid. Then the water behind it opened, not with a splash, but with a mouth. Elise saw teeth rise from the bayou, saw yellow eyes, saw the shape of something ancient and patient. The creature leapt back, but it was too late. The gator clamped down on one of its legs, and bone shattered. The creature howled so loudly, birds burst screaming through the trees. It clawed at the mud, tearing deep grooves into the bank as the gator pulled. Elise fell away, gasping, bleeding, and crawling. The water thrashed black with fur, blood, teeth and mud. For one terrible second, Elise saw her husband's face again beneath the beast. He was crying. Then the creature ripped itself free, leaving part of its leg in the gator's jaws. It fled into the trees on 3 limbs, screaming. The howling continued long after it disappeared. Elise crawled toward the place where Thomas had vanished. "Thomas," she called, her voice coming out small. The swamp answered with bubbles. She crawled until her hands sank into deep water, until mud filled her nails, until the night blurred and tilted. Then she saw something, a child's footprint in the soft bank, one, then another, leading away from the water and deeper into the bayou. Beside them were larger tracks. They were not the creatures. It was something else, something barefoot, something with toes too long. Elise tried to stand, but she could not. At dawn, the searchers found only her shawl hanging from a branch, black with swamp water and torn down the middle. They found the ruined house, the claw marks, the burned floor, and the blood trail leading into the bayou. They found no man, no wife, and no child. By noon, the story had already changed. By nightfall, men said a gator had taken him. By the end of the week, they said Elise had run mad. By the end of the year, no one said Thomas's name at all. But the bayou did. Some nights, when fog sat low over the water, people near Blackwater heard a child laughing far out where no child could be. Other nights, they heard a woman humming a lullaby beneath the cypress trees. And always, without fail, after the lullaby ended, the howling began.